Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. Do you agree with, well, matter of fact, let's do this, right? Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. Let's do this because Lou Dibella said some stuff that pissed people off. So let's talk about it. Black culture. Lou Dibella says Claressa Shields made people care, but some people are saying, yo, she's gone too far. He's trying to say she's a brand genius. She's a role model. People should follow her lead. Tell me what you think about this.
Yeah, Claressa Shields is look. I have great admiration for Claressa. I'll tell you why. One, she hasn't abandoned her roots. She came from the hood in Michigan, and that's where, she's made her market. She's embraced where she came from, and she's made the culture her market. She's made Black culture her market. Mm-hmm. And she's understood that embracing her community was the best way for her to achieve star power. And Dimitri helps with that. Dimitri's a promoter. Mm-hmm. But that's also, her relationship with Papoose, which I don't think that was intentional mm-hmm. to become bigger, mm-hmm. but it allowed her also to sort of cross over into the hip hop world, cross over into the urban, music sort of scene. She's become a star, and she's done it her way. Give her credit, man. Like, you don't have to love her. Mm-hmm. By the way, the fact she's polarizing, and you and I have had this discussion over the years. Mm-hmm. We know this. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be loved by everyone. You need people to care about you. If gazillions of people care about you, but half of them hate you, that's how Mayweather became a superstar. Yeah. And he's not the only one. Prince Nassim, I can go through the list. Yeah. If you make people care about you, they don't all have to love you. And Claressa's been very effective in making people care about her. And that's a lesson to any male fighter, young kid out there, or any other woman that's looking to get into the game. Do you and find out a way to make yourself a brand, because you are giving yourself the greatest opportunity to succeed in any sport if you do that.
Okay, Lou Dibella. He had a lot to say, didn't he? Y'all agree with him or not? Because he said a lot in that little 2 minutes. But as a result, it's created a very powerful discussion. And I just want to go ahead and let everybody know Claressa Shields should not be treated as a representative of Black people as a whole, and behaviors such as violence, sexuality, drinking, smoking, gambling, or adultery are not inherently Black behaviors. So people, let's move on beyond the bullshit. It's 2026. Don't get caught up in that nonsense. Those are individual behaviors that exist across every racial and cultural group. It's not a Black thing that you wouldn't understand. It exists across every racial and cultural group. But the question is, what happens when a highly visible Black athlete deliberately builds her brand around elements of celebrity culture that some members of her own community believe reinforce negative stereotypes? Now, the promoter's argument. It's interesting, man. From a marketing perspective, I think I understand what Lou is trying to say. His position appears to be that Claressa recognized something many athletes fail to understand. Your boxing ability can make you famous, but your personality can make you a star. I don't know if she's a star, but she has a lot of visibility on her right now. He believes Claressa embraced her community, connected herself to entertainment culture, and expanded her audience beyond hardcore boxing fans. And the relationship with Papoose, in his view, potentially gave her access to another audience, the hip-hop audience. Now remember, this is him. It's not me. This is him. But I do think it's an important distinction, because the diehard boxing fans like myself, we know Claressa because of the gold medals, the championships, the undisputed championships, the multiple weight classes, the major rivalries, especially with Savannah Marshall. But the people outside of boxing didn't know who she was, all right? It wasn't until shit popped off with her, Papoose, Remy, where the people who are more that hip-hop crowd who don't follow boxing, they're like, and the people who kind of follow the drama, they were like, who is this chick? So they became to know her because of social media, entertainment, that relationship, hip-hop, celebrity culture, viral controversies. So from a branding perspective, it's kind of powerful to have the entire boxing community know who you are, and have this whole other world that wasn't even paying you any attention now know who you are. But I'm going to say this. I don't know if that's necessarily working out the way Lou Dibella is portraying it. And then to come out here talking about Mayweather and Prince Nassim Hamed and that make a comparison to Claressa, to that I say in the most respectful way, Lou Dibella, hold your horses and stop taking it to the stupid. I got to examine that comparison to Mayweather and Hamed. I got to examine that. Neither fighter built his entire commercial identity around simply saying, I'm a great boxer. They created personalities, man. We understand that Mayweather became synonymous with, you already know, wealth, extravagance, confidence, confrontation, self-promotion. And Prince Nassim Hamed, who's a lot of people's favorite fighter, his thing was showmanship, confidence like Mayweather, theatrical entrances, and personality. So people didn't necessarily have to like him, but they had likable qualities. That's the thing that Claressa lacks. But they did care about those guys, you know what I mean? And that's what the promoter's trying to say about Claressa is if people love you, that's attention. If people hate you, that's attention. So he's trying to say they care enough about Claressa to watch her, to pay money for her. But not everybody agrees with what he's saying. Because, see, there's a dangerous part. Dangerous part. And sometimes it's realized later by athletes. When they start saying, I don't need everybody to like me. That's Claressa right there. I don't need you to like me. Whatever, man, please, I don't need you to like me. I need you to notice me. Wrong. Wrong. Here's where the promoter's comments apparently touched the nerve. And let me tell you this. You need people to like you. They can root for you to lose, but they got to like you. Mayweather, people liked him. Not Hamed, people liked him. You know what I'm saying? And they noticed him. With Claressa, not so many people like her, but you notice her. So Lou Dibella touched the nerve. Some black fans can recognize the marketing strategy without agreeing with the behavior being marketed. Those are two separate questions. Someone can say, Claressa's, you know what, man, she's extremely effective at creating attention, while simultaneously saying, like, I don't believe everything associated with her public image represents the value I want younger people to emulate. Those positions are not contradictory. Black culture is not one thing, people. This is extremely important. There's no single black community opinion. Like that shit is crazy to me. I've traveled the world. I'm not going to get into all that. But I'm just telling you, there are millions of black people with different religions, politics, family structures, lifestyles, values, socioeconomic backgrounds, ages, interests, opinions about sexuality, opinions about entertainment, opinions about athletes. Okay? It's a fact. There are many contrasts within black communities, all communities. Not everybody thinks the same and sees shit the same. So when some black observers criticize Claressa, it doesn't mean black people have rejected Claressa. And when black people defend her, it doesn't mean black people support everything she does. It means there's a disagreement within a diverse community. So Lou Dibella, I think I understand what he was trying to say, but he got it wrong. You see, the stereotypes are the real issue here, people. Now we're going to get deeper with the subject. I'm telling you, stereotypes are a problem. Like I was saying earlier, I wasn't going to get into it, but I'll tell you this. I've been to China. I've been to Korea. I've been to Japan. I've been to Germany. I've been to Egypt. I've been to Australia. I've been to Africa. You know what I'm saying? I've been to Japan. I've been all over, man. And I could keep going on. But I've been to fucking France, Rome. But let me tell you, Black Americans have historically dealt with stereotypes imposed from the outside community. And I'm just telling you right now, even if you ain't black, if you have dark skin or you just look like you qualify, those stereotypes get attached to you. And some of those stereotypes have portrayed black people as violent, aggressive, hypersexual, irresponsible, criminal, undisciplined, angry, dangerous, promiscuous, unintelligent, materialistic. Now, I'm going to read that again. When I read these off, tell me if you think they apply to Claressa Shields and what papoose, what he's pushing and what they've been pushing since he got involved with her. Violence, always talking about violence. punching people in the mouth, etc., assaulted Alicia. Aggressive, everything but her is aggressive. On social media, going at fans, everything about her in interviews, always aggressive. Hypersexual, I mean, I don't even need to get into that because we all know what time it is when it comes to that shit. Everything is sex, 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 showing off the body, everything. I mean, I ain't just talking about wearing a revealing bathing suit or something at a wedding. I'm talking about showing off the body. Irresponsible as hell. Criminal. Papoose and all this rapping and ganging and this and her talking about I'm a killer. Being undisciplined, angry all the time. Dangerous. People like see you as unpredictable, don't know what you're going to do next. Promiscuous. Unintelligent. Materialistic. Especially that materialistic. You see, these stereotypes didn't originate because black people collectively behaved this way. They were reinforced through historical racism, media portrayals, entertainment, and social institutions. That's why representation can become such an emotionally charged subject. That's why I'm surprised Dibella even opened his mouth. You know what I'm saying? Imagine spending generations fighting stereotypes that portray your community negatively. Then a famous person from that community becomes extremely visible. That person's behavior is broadcast to millions of people. Some members of the community may think you have every right to live your life, but you also have enormous influence. Please understand what young people are watching. You listen to people who call in who are from Flint. They're like, she don't represent us. People from Detroit, she doesn't represent us. People from California who are black, she doesn't represent us. All the women who call into my life, she doesn't represent us. There's maybe 2% who's okay with what she does. So that's not necessarily about trying to control Claressa. That's about the influence that she has. You know what I mean? And this thing about violence, if an athlete publicly celebrates violence outside legitimate competition, people understandably are going to object. That's what happened here. She slapped Alicia, and first thing she did was ran to social media to come out there, man, and, celebrate. But here's an important distinction. Boxing itself is not the problem. Boxing is a sport governed by rules. The concern is when fighting, intimidation, or physical confrontation becomes presented as a desirable lifestyle outside the ring. That's what Claressa has pushed. That's what Papoose pushes. Everything with them is violence, violence, tough guy, Al Capone shit. That's why I don't take them serious when it comes to that. Like the trash talk and all that come with the territory. But all the stereotypes they reinforce, I'm not with that. And neither is 98% of the people who took offense to what Dibella said. But remember what I'm telling you, the concern isn't uniquely black. You got parents of every background that had the same concern. You know what I'm saying? You have adults of every background who may not have children that have that concern. The bottom line, people are looking and saying, knock it off. Then this thing with anger. Claressa's outspoken. We know that. There's a difference between assertiveness and constant hostility. An athlete can be confident without being destructive. An athlete can defend herself without turning every disagreement into warfare. That's where some observers, I think they see a conflict between brand building and role model responsibility. You see, this stuff there should be an inextricable connection between the two if it's done effectively when it comes to brand building. But it's not, because you have people out there who are trying to build a brand who aren't qualified to build a responsible brand. Let's think about sexuality and body image. This is a real sensitive issue, but it is what it is because this is what's being pushed by Big Growth, but not just her, all these women. You look at these weigh-ins. These weigh-ins are getting out of control. Now, look, people can say, well, you're a man. You should like to see that booty jiggle. Nah, I'm a man, but I don't trip off that shit. But I look at it more like, this is somebody's daughter up there. I look at it more like, why these females feel they have to push nudity? Why are the promoters okay with that? You know what I'm saying? They don't need to come out there and leave nothing to the imagination. If you got body, you got body. But sexuality and body image, I think Claressa has gone all the way left because she actually had pictures out there, which is I was very disappointed in her. Y'all know I don't have an expectation from Claressa. Once she came out there and disrespected Shadaysha Green, it's not like I liked her or disliked her. I just thought she was entertaining. I still find some of the shit entertaining, but I don't have any more expectation when she disrespected Shadaysha. But I never thought in a million years she'd be out there with a picture like she had out with her body exposed like that. But I want to say this, and I mean this. A woman has a right to do what the hell she wants to do. control your own body, control your appearance. You want to show yourself nude, y'all can do whatever. You know what I mean? Because a part of me, there's like a sliver of me that feels like, yo, that takes a lot of confidence for a woman to do that. That's like 1% of me. The other 99% is like, nah, bullshit. You know what I mean? Audience are entitled to debate whether certain images are appropriate for a particular public or brand, and I'm allowed to debate it too. But there are two different questions. You know what I mean? Those are two different questions. I think the important thing not to say is black women shouldn't show their bodies. I would never say that. But what I'm saying is, you know, it becomes a racial and gender stereotype if you say it that way. But the better question, I think, is more like, what image does a public figure want associated with a professional legacy? You look at Claressa. What I'm asking her right now, like, Claressa, I know you're watching this. What image do you want associated with your professional legacy? For the rest of Claressa's life, there's an image that somebody's downloaded of her out here with her being exposed. So to me, she needs to consider that question. Now, this shit about the married man controversy, I think at this point, a lot of us feel like it is what it is. You know, Remy gone her way, Pepper's going his way. Yeah, they're still legally married, but they both have come out and said, look, basically, I'm single. You know what I'm saying? But that whole relationship controversy surrounding her and Papoose, that's another area where personal behavior intersects with public reputation. And this right here has been her Achilles heel, I ain't gonna lie. The appropriate criticism is about the individuals involved and the circumstances. People need to understand that this isn't black people generally. I hear people talking crazy. This is an individual thing, not a black thing. Some people believe relationships involving married individuals conflict with personal or religious values. Others believe celebrities' romantic lives are their business. But both perspectives exist. However, I will say this. Once a private relationship becomes a public brand, people are inevitably going to discuss it. That's the price of celebrity. And you can tell that Claressa seemed to be okay with certain portions of it. She doesn't like to be criticized. Papoose don't want nothing out there. He like, let her act a fool, but don't bring me into it. That's why just the other day, when she was on live and she was like, don't cuss me out. And he woke up, he like, I'm not talking to you while you're on live. She had brought him some food and shit. You can see that he like, all right, I'm not okay with the price of being, with all these prices of being celebrity. I like some of the perks, but I don't like the attention. I don't like the ridicule and criticism. And I definitely don't want people to know more about me than I have to show them. But at the end of the day, okay, maybe you don't say nothing, but then you out there gambling. And you got Claressa look like she drinks and smokes. I've seen videos of her drinking and smoking. And these are things you got to separate from race. Not everybody in the black community gambles, drinks, and smokes. That's a fucking stereotype. But you're seeing Papoose Claressa doing the shit. There's nothing inherently black about gambling, drinking, or smoking. Y'all got to stop this bullshit. These behaviors exist across virtually every demographic. The real question is, should professional athletes publicly glamorize potentially harmful behaviors, especially when you got a whole nother generation of people that are watching and may want to emulate you? Like, that's a universal question. So if a 16-year-old watches a famous boxer like Claressa Shields, what does that boxer communicate through their lifestyle? That's where the conversation becomes legitimate. We've seen other pro athletes, females, boxers, what seem to be emulating Claressa Shields' behavior. And I ain't got to say no names. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's a couple of them. So if it affects adults like that, what impression you think it puts on those younger, undeveloped minds? So the bigger problem to me with celebrity culture is that Claressa she's not specific. I don't think it's her specifically. It's the modern celebrity economy. Social media, and what it rewards, extremes. Everything on social media is extreme. You gotta be the most outrageous shit going on. And if you are, you get attention. The controversial photograph gets attention. The big mouth, the profanity-laced tirades, everything gets attention. Nudity gets attention. Feuds get attention. Provocative statements gets attention. Violence gets attention. Calm, responsible, that kind of behavior gets nothing. So that creates a dangerous incentive. And when you're listening to Dibella, man, his argument becomes very interesting. If controversy, right, produces views, clicks, followers, these weird interviews, podcast appearances, sponsorship opportunities, which I don't know about all that, but you would think that there may be some low hanging fruit they may have picked up. I don't know, but got a lot of media coverage, right? If it's doing that, but in a clean way, the controversy has economic value. But for Claressa, I think some people deliberately, I think, or simply naturally feel that's why she became associated with controversy. But it was a huge risk. And yeah, she's making some money off the social media platforms, but the sponsorship opportunities, the multiples of millions of dollars that they thought would have come their way by her trying to behave in what they felt was Mayweather-esque, Prince Nassim-esque, it didn't work out that way. You know what I'm saying? They failed to realize that she could monetize attention without necessarily trying to improve her reputation. You know what I'm saying? She didn't have to come out here and try to take on the reputation of a bad girl, a villain, or something like that. She was trying in a weird way to improve her reputation by being villainous. But she could have monetized the attention without going that route. I think she was in a very good space before she decided to go the negative route and attack Layla and start attacking other fighters and dressing crazy. She didn't have to do that. And I think Mayweather is a perfect example of this distinction. He became one of boxing's biggest commercial attractions by creating an enormous personality. But people, to this day, they conduct debates on his conduct and legacy. And that's the lesson. You know, being a huge draw doesn't automatically mean a role model. Those are separate accomplishments. Now, when you come on back to Big Woke, there's a huge dilemma. Huge dilemma. And I'm trying to think of the best way to frame the entire story. Claressa has accomplished things that almost nobody in women's boxing can match. She has every reason to be proud. No one's knocking that. She has every right to promote herself. No one's knocking that. And she'll tell you that no one knows how to promote her better than her. So why do you need win record and papoose? You know what I'm saying? Keep that money to yourself. She has every right to build a massive personal brand. But the bigger her platform becomes, the more people will scrutinize and have been scrutinized what she does with it. That's inevitable. And she doesn't like that because she gets a lot of criticism. So greatness increases responsibility because influence increases. But they don't care about that. What about the younger girls watching? I listen to the ladies talk. This is one of the strongest arguments. Young athletes don't necessarily separate the athlete from the celebrity. A teenager may see a champion and think, I want to be like her. They may copy the training habits, eating fried rice during training camp, the confidence, the clothing, speech, social media behavior, relationship, lifestyle. That doesn't mean Claressa is responsible for every decision a young fan makes, but it does mean public figures should understand that visibility creates influence. And there's another side to all this, right? Because adults should also teach young people something that I think is extremely important. You can admire someone's talent. Nothing wrong with that. Claressa has things about her talent that can be admired, but copying the entire lifestyle, you don't have to do that. So you got to make sure these young people know you ain't got to copy the entire lifestyle because 80% of it is bullshit. But that 20% that got her to where she was as an Olympian, that got her to where she is with all these championships, that is what you should be looking at. Admire the work ethic. Admire the Olympic accomplishments, the determination, the sacrifice, the championship mentality, the resilience, the grit, the determination. But as far as that personal life, don't adopt every aspect of that shit. And I think that's the healthier approach. You know what I'm saying? Because the bottom line, when I did that live last night, them women were like, she does not represent me. Now, they're not saying that, look, I'm a real black woman, she's not. They're not saying that at all. What they're saying is Claressa doesn't represent the values I associate with my community. Now, that's different from saying Claressa ain't black. That nobody has said that. And I'll be honest with you, no individual can represent millions of people. It's just not gonna happen. And anyone who expects an athlete to represent everybody, that's dangerous. And I even think it's unfair. If Claressa makes a mistake, she shouldn't be treated as proof that black people are bad. And this is what happens. If Claressa succeeds, she shouldn't be treated as proof that black people are exceptional. She's an individual. Her actions belong to her. Her accomplishments belong to her. Her mistakes belong to her. Her choices belong to her. It's all about her. The real debate is about that branding, man. This is where, we need to talk about boxing. You know what I'm saying? The promoter talking about she made people care. I mean, maybe he's right about something important. Getting people to care is extraordinarily difficult. But the next question is, what do you want them to care about? What do you want them to care about? Talking about you a killer? About you trying to wear expensive clothes, drive expensive cars, wear expensive jewelry, show off your body, fighting people outside the ring, being aggressive, being a thug. What do you want people to care about? How about your championships? How about your personality, your relationship? Help things. Maybe there's something nice about you you're not showing us. Maybe you got relationships with someone that's positive, and we can look and say, "Oh, look, she has a friend there." Wow, total contrast of what we're seeing with these other ones, right? No, or do you just want it to be the negative about your championships? Nobody was giving me nothing, and nobody this, and nobody that, nobody this. Your personality. You got to know what I've been through, and yeah, I've been through this, and that's why I'm this way, and y'all don't understand me, and F y'all. All your controversies, your lifestyle, your relationship, your activism. What do you want people to care about? Your legacy, your business? I mean, eventually everyone's got to add things together, you know what I mean? That people are watching. So Claressa just got to understand, man, Layla Ali told her, man, to understand, build a positive brand, know what you're doing. Surround yourself with positive people, man, that can elevate you. Because the brand you build can become the legacy you leave. That's why I always say 2030. She called people old. I am 20 years older than Claressa. She's 31, I'm 51. 20 years from now when she's 51, what kind of legacy does she leave? You know what I mean? The brand you're building can and will, more often than not, become the legacy you leave. That's the warning. Claressa could retire tomorrow and her boxing accomplishments is set in stone. It's not going anywhere. But the internet will preserve everything else. See, those accomplishments, nobody can see that. So if you're not privy to what she's done as a boxer, you'll never know because you can't just go to the internet and you just can't see it. But you go to the internet, you can pull some shit up. And most of the time, people pulling up the drama, and that's what surfaces. That's why when you look at the branding decisions today, a lot of athletes need to understand how that affects tomorrow's legacy. So the question isn't really about, can Claressa get attention? Of course she can, but it's what will that attention mean 20 years from now, like I've been saying. So I'll just say this whole thing about Claressa, this thing about black representation, like Lou Dibella was saying. Claressa represents black culture? I don't know. Claressa does not represent black culture? I don't know. I think it's more Claressa represents herself. But because she's an enormously visible black athlete, some members of the black community will inevitably debate whether the image she presents reflects the values they want associated with their community. That debate is very legitimate, but it should never become an excuse to stereotype millions of black people. Violence isn't black, sexuality is not black, gambling isn't black, drinking isn't black, smoking isn't black, adultery isn't black, anger isn't black, and discipline isn't black either. They're human behaviors. Plain and simple. The more powerful question is whether a public figure is using their enormous platform in a way that builds the legacy they ultimately want. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think this is what she wants. She's just doing something she's told and she's not thinking long term. And that's where her story gets very fascinating because the promoter may be correct about one thing. Claressa figured out how to make people care. Lou Dibella was right. She does make people care. to pay attention to her. Doesn't mean they care about her or like her. They care enough to take time out the day to look and see what she said and what she's doing. But the harder part of all this is, what are people going to remember when the attention fades? Because it's going to fade at some point in time. And she's going to be remembered for all the crazy shit. So, black culture, nah. It's Claressa culture. Simple. Keep cool, I'm in the breeze.